I'd like to show you now some different variations, some different attacking possibilities that white might be actually able to set up and rely on. So it's very interesting. As a matter of fact, after the moves of c4, knight f6, knight c3, e6, white could go with a so-called Mykonos attack. This is pretty interesting because it leads to a very attacking sequence. And then basically white could use all those pieces that he's having in order to set out and create different type of pressure or attacks against black. And that's lovely. It's really good to see it. After e5, black can play, or black has to play actually more or less, the move of knight of the g8. And this is where white is great because truth be told, that type of move is not very good for black. He is being forced to move down, and then ultimately, after black plays with a candidate like this, we realize white has chances to follow. Maybe the easiest way is knight f3, knight c6, and then pawn up to the d4. Not a great necessarily move. We could see that white also almost sacrifices a pawn for no reason. C takes to the d, knight takes to the, knight takes to e5. But once again, let's talk about let's go down to really see what the core of this opening is all about. And the core of this opening is in the space, the speed, and the tactics that white can deliver versus black effectively. It's not that difficult to do. Just it requires consistency. After the knight x to the e5, white can play knight b5, f6, bishop to the e3. Development works out perfect. White sets out the bishop. He can get the other one out there as well, together with the short castles idea. I mean, there is plenty of really good ways on how white can carry on his development. Black, on the other hand, well, he's got a problem. Not a big one, probably, but a problem nevertheless. It is not easy to figure out what to do with black. Knight d6, bishop takes the d6, and then queen takes to the d6. Catches off black a little bit off, on the e8 square. His other pieces like that rook on h8 and the other rook on a8 are down behind and not too perfect. So while white will just continue with the development and the setup, black has a lot to worry about. He might be able to play this move. Okay, that makes sense. But then white plays bishop to the b6, and we've already gotten what we wanted. Solid pressure, different sort of challenges, and black's feeling the pain. So he's got to do knight to the f5, most likely expected, queen c5, d6, and then queen to a5. Overall, the thing that I love most about this position is how white takes up the pressure. Not only that he's got more pieces and great space, but he takes up on the pressure. And we could, utilize moves like long side castles, knight e4 there by attacking the d6 and things like that, which are indeed really, really good. So the setup just shows it. Of course, this is very, very good in this position. And, okay, well, what about black? I mean, that's the problem with him. I don't think that he's got way too many resources. Well, that's why white's position is so much better. What about that? I mean, of course, black could try queen to the d7. His intention being simple in order to make a move like maybe short castling, things like that. It makes great sense in this case. So what's going to happen next? Well, pretty much the idea is that once black has just gone over the move of a queen to the d7, white is ready to play with the move of f4, forcing black's knight and then castling along. Now we've got the bishop pair open. We've got the resources that are going to be almost killing him. And we have many ways to play it with bishop e2, rook e1. Look at this. This is an interesting, almost like an experimental way on how white sets up the attack. But it's so good that it works. It really does work quite efficiently. Black has problems. It certainly does not seem to be having the easiest way to work it out. And then while white just keeps improving and getting ready, black is going to have big issues with his pieces. This is wonderful. What's going to happen after that? I mean, you can play queen to the c6 at that moment in order to probably give himself a little bit of an extra challenge, extra resource. But I don't think that's good, because then after that was actually played out, white simply continues with c5. He might also be ready to play with the move of bishop to the g2, and we see black doesn't quite have that. So one of the interesting ways to play in positions of that kind is open and attack. Because when you open up and when you attack and when you realize all these different sort of threats, black's gonna fail terribly behind. So what happened? Was there a way on how you could do it a little bit differently? Yeah, well, I suppose, but the trouble is that after c5, when black plays king f7, white plays bishop to the e2, and he is just doing fantastic. We got moves like, for example, pawn up to the g4 that we could make, rook to the f1 that we could deliver, and the position is horrible for black. One of the really interesting resources is always, can you make sure that you develop your pieces in such a way so that you can provide the best out of possible middle game attacks? And that now is terrible for black. Once white sets up all of his pieces, black kind of loses it. So this is why white is becoming so successful. In any case, an instructive game and good principles. Let's take a look at some others so we could see how they work. On occasion, people do play e5, knight f6, knight c6, and bishop b4. Not because it's perfect or anything, but rather because black just wants to set out his bishop, cause a little bit of extra pressure maybe at that point. And it makes sense. It's not a bad line, actually, for him to play. So what are we supposed to do when he does that? Well, the first thing, which is very important, very intricate actually, is that of course we have to take this seriously. We have to think very carefully about what he's doing. But the next is apparently going to be the move of knight d5. Do not let him get in there and make anything dangerous. This is a good move. With the move of knight to the d5, we're creating a little bit of an extra problem against this b4 bishop, so that obviously he's got to worry. If he exchanges, we're going to retake, have the e5 and everything else. So now, this is good. It's a really good position. What does black do? Well, actually, black can pick up to do the move of e4. This early attack is never going to work for black. You have to know that. Even if your opponent basically jumps in and starts attacking and making you to think like you have lost it, you haven't. I can guarantee you that. Usually, this is just an attempt to make us feel like really bad. So what's going to happen after that type of move comes in? Well, after the move of e4, white can just really go right back in that type of position. And, okay, so we could see next move, then we can attack probably with a move of f3 or other moves. Doesn't matter actually in what way we do it. It's just a good, as soon as we come up with that type of a move, then you can have that resource, everything is ready, and we have the continuation. So for instance, after that, black can castle, a3, bishop d6, queen to the c2. We have a good solid challenge, and that's all we really like to follow up with. See, the early attack, despite its very interesting way to go about it, really fails. It's not bad, it just fails. Fails due to the idea that now the e4 is hanging, and there will be plenty of other things that white can challenge against black, so black has very little to do in that position. After queen to the c2, rook e8, possibly white can make the move of knight to the e2 to happen. Then there could be the move of knight to the c3, and then there could be different ways to really go about this. Not to say that he will lose, but yes, we certainly have a lot to show once that knight sets itself up directly at the other square out there. So these are my like major thoughts as to what we can really do. And again, the plan is always clear. Let's just keep the pressure, hold black a little bit more down, and that can help white brilliantly. So those are my thoughts on some of the main lines. Now, what if black plays, for example, with c4, c6? This is an interesting move because usually that will require us to consider Slav as a strong response. And while Slav is not one of the most dangerous openings, well, we have to be careful because Slav could be painful. We've got to be extra careful, and we've got to think a little bit about just how to prevent this. So what do we do? What's the right way to continue in such a position? There are a couple of different ways to go about this. My opinion is that when black chooses or picks up to play like this, you go with the d4, normal. You transform into the Slav, but not just generally in the Slav. You can go with the Slav if you want to, but I think the more important idea is going to be to play the Catalan approach. Catalan is really good if you do it right. Imagine black playing the move of pawn up to the d5, and then we can have that ability to play with knight f3 right now. Knight f6, and then g3. So this is the road which we can take in order to have our bishop go directly at the g2, and then we can come up with an easy way to play alongside, maybe with knight to e5, and then other resources, other tactics along the way like this. It's quite good. It's very interesting, very easy, and we don't have to worry. This is the plan. Step up with it, make it work, and of course, this is a great resource to keep it up with. So good example, nice principles, and very relevant idea, and how we could make it